For the past 4 months, I'd been running on nothing but coffee and pure grit, burning the candle at both ends, sacrificing weekends, trading social events for spreadsheets, all for one major project. A client account so huge, it could be the turning point of my entire career. And at long last, it was complete. The client was ecstatic. The presentation had gone off without a hitch. The deal was finalized. But the cherry on top? The reward. I sat at my desk, staring at the email for what had to be the 10th time. Evelyn, you exceeded all expectations. Think of these as a personal thank you. Enjoy the game. Attached was the confirmation, 2 tickets to the Super Bowl, front row, 40-yard line. An experience of a lifetime. My heart was racing. I'd never been to a Super Bowl, and as someone who'd been a football fan since childhood, this felt surreal. My hands trembled slightly as I printed the email, double-checking the details out of disbelief. The client had forwarded the tickets to my boss, Robert Fowler, senior partner, and the man in charge of handling client gifts. That made sense. He usually dealt with logistics in these situations. I imagined him walking in, maybe cracking a rare smile, and placing the tickets on my desk with a simple, "Well done, Evelyn." But that moment never came. Instead, 3 days later, Robert swaggered into my office, unannounced, wearing that signature smirk of his, like he owned everything in sight. "I heard the good news," he said. I smiled, certain this was it. He was finally handing them over. "I really appreciate it," I said. "I gave everything to that project." He nodded with a smug little grin. "You did, which is why I wanted to talk to you about the tickets." Something in his tone made my stomach turn. "Okay," I replied slowly. He gave a performative sigh, the kind people use when they pretend they're the reasonable one. "Look, Evelyn, sometimes clients don't fully grasp how our internal structure works. When they gifted you those tickets, they probably didn't realize it's more of a gesture to the firm, not an individual." My stomach nodded. "That's not true," I said, steady and composed. "The message clearly stated they were a personal thank you, for me." He brushed it off with a casual wave, like it was irrelevant. "I understand, but we have to think bigger picture. These things can be strategic, so I'll be taking the tickets." Everything tilted. I blinked, trying to process. What? "I've already arranged to take a potential investor. It's a smart move, for the business." My heart hammered in my chest. Was this really happening, after everything I poured into that account? "That's not right," I said, carefully keeping my tone even. "The client gave them to me." Robert chuckled like I was some intern who didn't know how the world worked. "You should be grateful you're still here," he said coolly. "That's your real reward." My fingers curled around the arms of my chair, nails digging into my palms. This wasn't about football anymore. It was about respect. And boundaries. He patted the edge of my desk like I was a good little assistant. "You get it, and don't worry, you'll have other chances." I inhaled deeply, blinked, held myself steady. Then I did something even I didn't expect. I smiled. Not the warm, appreciative kind, no, this smile had sharp edges. "Well," I said smoothly, "enjoy the game." He flashed his smug grin, thinking he'd won, and sauntered out like a hero. He had no idea Monday was going to be unforgettable. The moment he disappeared, my fake smile vanished, my fists clenched beneath the desk, fury bubbling just under the surface. He really thought he could steal this and walk away unscathed. I stayed still for a moment, collecting myself, refusing to act impulsively. No, I had to be strategic. Fortunately, Robert had just handed me the perfect opening. I opened the email from the client again, rereading every word. My pulse quickened as a plan began to form. Confronting him head-on would be pointless. He'd twist it, deny it, bury it. But if I played this right, I wouldn't have to lift a finger. He'd be the one to ruin himself. I fired off a short text to my client. "Hey, thanks again for the Super Bowl tickets. Just found out they ended up with someone else at my firm. Hope we can catch up soon." Less than a minute passed before my phone buzzed. Wait, what? Who took them? I couldn't help but smirk. Oh, this was about to get interesting. I played innocent. "No idea, honestly. All I know is, they never made it to me. No worries though." "No worries, Evelyn. Those were meant for you. Leave this to me. Don't say a word." Bullseye. I leaned back in my chair, adrenaline still pumping, but now, for entirely different reasons. This wasn't me versus Robert anymore. Now it was Robert versus the client. And I already knew how that would end. The rest of the day, I quietly started collecting information. I knew Robert well enough to bet on his ego giving him away. Sure enough, around lunch, I caught him in the break room, holding court. 40-yard line, he was bragging. It's going to be insane. I'm taking a heavy hitter with me. These deals live and die on personal connection. I stayed just out of sight, biting my cheek to keep from laughing. The arrogance, the recklessness. By Friday, the office was humming. Robert was leaving early, catching a flight to the Super Bowl city. He strutted around like royalty. We crossed paths in the hallway. Got anything exciting planned this weekend? I asked casually. He flashed that smug grin. You know me, just closing deals. Well, I said, enjoy the game. And I meant it, because by the time he touched down, the gears were already turning. Saturday morning, a message popped up from my client. Meeting set for Monday, just follow my lead, trust me. I smiled. Oh, I did. Sunday came and went. I didn't watch a single snap of the game, not because I'd lost my love for football, but because I had my eyes on something bigger. Monday morning, 9:07 a.m. Robert strolled into the office, sunglasses on, coffee in hand, full of smug satisfaction. He didn't even look in my direction. At 9:30, the meeting invite hit my inbox. Subject, client review, mandatory. Location, conference room A. Attendees, senior partners, Robert Fowler, client rep, Evelyn. I clicked accept. Showtime. When I entered the glass conference room, the tension was immediate. Robert was at the head of the table, legs crossed, casual confidence oozing from every pore, until the client walked in. And he wasn't alone. A woman followed, someone I hadn't seen before, but from the reaction in the room, I could tell she wasn't just a guest. Robert, the client said smoothly, this is Andrea Holloway, VP of Corporate Partnerships. Andrea offered a cool, professional nod as she took a seat. Robert straightened, caught off guard. Of course, great to meet you, Andrea. The client leaned in, polite smile barely masking the ice beneath it. Before we dive into the agenda, a quick question. Evelyn, did you enjoy the game? Dead silence. I tilted my head, pretending not to understand. The game? The Super Bowl. I gave a small shake of my head. Oh, I didn't go. The client's face hardened. That's odd. I made sure you had 2 seats, right, Robert? Robert tensed. He tried to laugh it off. Yeah, well, there was a bit of a mix-up. Evelyn couldn't make it, so. The client raised a hand. Then who did? Robert faltered. I took a potential investor. Andrea raised an eyebrow. Just to clarify, Robert, you redirected tickets explicitly gifted to an employee, without authorization, for your own use? Robert stammered. I wouldn't put it that way. The client wasn't done. I was genuinely excited to thank Evelyn in person. She earned that gesture. Imagine my reaction when I learned she never received it. Robert opened his mouth to explain. Nothing came out. Andrea turned to me. Evelyn, were you ever informed of any policy requiring you to forfeit that gift? I met her gaze, voice steady. No, Robert simply told me the tickets were his. The silence that followed was thick. Andrea leaned back, eyes on Robert. So, in effect, you misappropriated a client gift, misrepresented the situation, and acted outside ethical bounds. Robert turned white. The client shook his head, disappointed. I don't think I can continue business with someone who undermines his own team for personal gain. Robert sat up, frantic. Wait, we can talk about this. The client turned to Andrea. I trust the firm will take appropriate action? She gave a firm nod. Effective immediately. And just like that, Robert realized he hadn't won anything. He'd played himself. It was over for him. As for me, I leaned back and soaked in the moment. Silence stretched thick across the conference room, every second tightening around Robert's neck like a slowly cinching rope. His face, usually painted with smug certainty, was now flushed, eyes darting, his calm slipping. Andrea, the VP of Corporate Partnerships, rested her hands on the table and leaned forward. Her tone was cool, deliberate, and carried the weight of authority. Robert, do you have any idea how this looks? He swallowed hard, no words, just that telltale twitch of someone who knew they were cornered. The client let out a slow sigh, shaking his head in quiet disappointment. This isn't just about football tickets, it's about trust, integrity, about knowing that when I do business with someone, they won't throw their own colleague under the bus for their own gain. Robert's jaw tightened, his fingers tapped nervously, he looked around for backup. None came. The senior partners avoided eye contact, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. No one wanted to be associated with the train wreck happening in front of them. I sat with my hands folded neatly in front of me, no gloating, no smirk, just calm, quiet satisfaction. Andrea broke the silence. Did you charge any expenses from this trip to the company? Robert blinked. Sorry, what? Her head tilted slightly. The flight, hotel, meals, transport, did any of it go on the firm's tab? His silence answered for him. The client let out a breathy laugh, but there was no amusement in it. So let me get this straight, you used firm money to take someone else to a game, using seats meant as a gift for Evelyn? Robert straightened, trying to recover, his smile thin and strained. I get how this might look, but my intention was to build a valuable relationship. I brought someone with potential, someone who could benefit the firm long term. The client raised a hand. Who exactly did you bring? Robert blinked. Pardon? The client's gaze sharpened. Name, who did you take? Robert opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked like a goldfish caught mid-gasp. Andrea tapped a pen lightly against her notepad. Answer the question, Robert. I already knew, we all did. He hadn't taken a client, not a potential investor, not anyone remotely business adjacent. He took his brother-in-law, a guy who couldn't close a deal if his life depended on it, just wanted to drink overpriced beer and post selfies from the 40-yard line. And Robert expensed every last dime. It hit him then, you could see it on his face, realization flooding in. No more exits, no more excuses. The client shook his head slowly. This is absurd. He turned to Andrea. Please make a note, we won't be continuing any business with Robert Fowler going forward. Robert's head snapped up. Wait, that's completely. The client cut through the noise. If the firm wants to assign someone else to my account, I'm open to it. He turned to me. Or honestly, I'd prefer Evelyn from now on. My expression stayed neutral, but inside, fireworks. Andrea gave a small nod. Noted. She began tapping out something on her tablet. Robert, we'll handle this internally. I suggest you take the rest of the week to step away while we conduct a formal review. Robert looked stricken, color draining from his face. He opened his mouth, but the room was already past him. Andrea's expression was cold, the client's, resolute, and everyone else, silent. He was finished, and he knew it. He stood abruptly, his chair scraped loudly against the floor, and then, without a word, he walked out, glass doors swinging shut behind him. A long silence followed. Then, the client looked at me, his tone softening. Evelyn, I owe you an apology. I should have ensured those tickets got to you directly. I shook my head gently. You couldn't have known. Honestly. I nodded toward the door Robert had just exited. This turned out better. The client chuckled. I like your perspective. Andrea smiled faintly, then slid a folder across the table to me. Evelyn, you've been doing the heavy lifting on this account for a while now. I'd like to make it official, with a promotion. My breath caught. A promotion. I looked down at the offer, a title upgrade, a significant salary bump, and a seat at the table I used to be overlooked at. I looked up, eyes wide. You're serious? Completely, Andrea said. You've more than earned it. A smile broke across my face, slow and genuine. Then I accept. The client rose, extending a hand. Glad to hear it. And next time I get Super Bowl tickets? He grinned. They'll be hand-delivered to you. I laughed and shook his hand. Robert thought he took something from me. All he did was hand me everything I ever wanted. And the best part? It was only Monday. By the time I made it back to my desk, the buzz had already begun. People were whispering, glancing toward me, then at the now vacant corner office. News spreads fast in places like this. And when a senior partner walks out looking like he saw a ghost? You better believe everyone notices. I settled into my chair, fighting back the smile trying to break free. My inbox flooded with messages. Congratulations. Supportive texts. And even a few stunned what just happened, notes from colleagues who had caught bits of the drama unfolding. Then, a text from Robert. Robert Fowler, what the hell did you do? I stared at it for a moment before typing back, "Me, not sure what you mean. I thought you were making moves." I waited. No reply. Of course not. I exhaled slowly, my eyes drifting to the freshly signed promotion letter sitting on my desk. I had one. But Robert wasn't done with me yet. The final play. An hour later, an email hit my inbox. Subject, HR meeting, immediate attendance required. I clicked on it. "Evelyn, please report to HR immediately. This is a mandatory meeting." I frowned. Robert wasn't going down quietly. I grabbed my notebook and headed for HR. The receptionist barely looked up, but motioned to the glass-walled room in the back. Inside, Denise from HR sat at the table, looking awkward. Across from her sat Robert. He didn't look smug anymore. No, now he looked like a rat backed into a corner. Denise cleared her throat. "Evelyn, please have a seat." I did. Robert leaned in, feigning concern with his voice thick with false sincerity. "Evelyn, I really hoped we wouldn't have to address this, but I need to bring up a serious issue." I raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" He sighed dramatically. "The firm has been reviewing some of your recent communications, and it appears you may have violated corporate confidentiality by discussing internal business matters with an outside client." I blinked. Oh, so this was his next move. Denise glanced at me, then back at Robert. "Robert brought this to our attention this morning." Of course he did. He was trying to flip the narrative, trying to spin this back on me to salvage his career. I tilted my head. "And which specific confidential business matters are we talking about?" Robert folded his hands, leaning forward. "The emails you sent about the Super Bowl tickets. That was an internal matter, Evelyn. And you took it directly to a client." I let out a short, incredulous laugh. "So, let me get this straight, a gift meant for me personally, something that was taken from me, is now an internal business issue?" Denise flinched slightly at the word taken. Robert's jaw clenched. "I wouldn't exactly call it taken." I interrupted. "Really?" "Because the client did. And he made sure everyone heard it." The room fell silent. I leaned back in my chair. "This isn't about confidentiality. This is about you getting caught. And now you're throwing a fit because there are consequences." Denise took a careful breath. "Robert, I understand your concern, but after reviewing everything, I don't see any violation on Evelyn's part." He shot her a confused look. "Excuse me?" She glanced down at her notes. The client was the one who gave the tickets. He had every right to inquire about them. Evelyn did not disclose any private company strategies, financials, or trade secrets, only the status of something that was meant for her personally. Robert's face reddened. "So that's it? You're just going to let her get away with?" Denise straightened in her chair, her tone hardening. "Robert, let's make this clear, you're the one under investigation here. Not Evelyn." Those words hit him like a slap across the face. He started, but Denise cut him off. "The expense reports are under review. The client has formally cut ties with you. And now, after all of this, you're trying to retaliate against an employee who was just promoted?" Robert had nothing left to say. No arguments. No comeback. He was done. Denise sighed and stood. "Robert, I need you to leave." "Evelyn, you're free to go." I gathered my things without sparing him a glance and walked out. By the time I got back to my desk, the email was already circulating. Subject, effective immediately, Robert Fowler is no longer with the firm. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't imagining things. And then, for the first time all day, I let myself smile. Robert was gone. And I had won. But the best part? This wasn't just a personal victory for me. It was a message. To every entitled, arrogant boss who thinks they can walk all over their employees. Never underestimate those you think are beneath you. They might just be the ones who bring you down. The office was oddly quiet after Robert's swift departure. Oh, people were talking, whispers in the hallways, nervous glances in the break room. But no one dared to say a word aloud. The weight of what had just transpired was too heavy. A senior partner had been ousted. Not by another high-ranking executive. Not by a rival. But by me. I sat at my desk, rereading the company-wide email announcing Robert's termination. His name was already scrubbed from the directory. His office locked up. His belongings packed and removed by HR. It was like he'd never existed. That should have been enough. But there was still one last thing. I pulled out my phone and tapped on my client's contact. He picked up immediately. "Evelyn," he said, a trace of amusement in his voice. "I'm guessing you've heard the news." "I have," I replied, keeping my tone casual. "I think a thank you is in order." He chuckled. "Oh, don't thank me." Robert dug his own grave. "You just handed him the shovel." I couldn't help but smirk. "Well, I appreciate you making sure it was all so public." There was a brief silence before his voice became more measured. "Tell me something, Evelyn. Are you really content staying where you are?" That caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "Well, let's look at the facts," he said with ease. "You were the one doing all the work. You built that account. Your firm promoted you out of necessity, not because they wanted to. And Robert's exit? That was all you." I leaned back, his words sinking in. "I'll be honest with you," he continued. "I'm not a fan of your firm. I only put up with it because of how much I enjoyed working with you." I blinked. "Oh?" He chuckled again. "Oh yes. So let's cut to the chase. I want you to come work for me." My heart skipped a beat. You've already proven yourself," he said smoothly. "You're sharp, strategic, and you don't let people push you around. That's exactly who I want leading my business strategy team." Then he paused, letting the silence hang in the air. "I'll double your salary," he added. I almost dropped my phone. Double? Not just a small raise, but double my pay. I swallowed hard. "That's quite an offer." He laughed lightly. "It is, and it's only fair." I hesitated. This was happening fast. I'd just received a promotion. Was I really about to walk away from it? But then, I thought about it. I remembered all the years I'd been overlooked at the firm, my ideas stolen and repurposed by people like Robert. I remembered how I was promoted only because of a scandal that forced their hand. Did I really owe them anything? No, I didn't. A slow smile spread across my face. "Send me the offer," I said. "I think it's time for something better." By morning, my resignation letter was signed and ready. I walked through the office, head high, ignoring the shocked murmurs and the glances of admiration. Denise from HR looked stunned when I handed her the letter. "You're leaving?" she asked, wide-eyed. I nodded. "Got an offer I couldn't turn down." She glanced at the letter, then whistled softly when she saw the salary. "Damn," she said under her breath. "Well, can't say I blame you." I smiled. It was time to move on. As I packed my things, a few coworkers stopped by to congratulate me. Some were surprised, others not so much. And then, just as I was about to leave, a text came through. An unknown number. "Robert Fowler, enjoy your little victory. You just got lucky." I stared at the words for a moment before typing back, luck had nothing to do with it." And with that, I walked out the door. A year later, I sat in my corner office, looking out over the city. My name was on the door, my team respected me, my salary was more than I ever dreamed. And best of all, I was working for people who truly valued me. I scrolled through my phone and saw an industry alert. Former executive Robert Fowler files lawsuit against his previous firm, claiming wrongful termination. I couldn't help but laugh. He was still fighting a battle he'd already lost. I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair. Robert had spent years stealing credit, walking over others, taking what wasn't his. And in the end, he lost everything. As for me, I gained everything. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you next time. Stay amazed.